Hey guys, welcome to the Double Chen Show. It's Mike.
It's Dan.
Today we are talking about stereotypes.
Yes.
But we're kind of reversing it because a lot of times we talk about stereotypes people have against Asians.
Yeah, on Asians, against Asians.
Yeah.
We're turning the tables this time.
Because here are some stereotypes that Asians, well, specifically Chinese people have
Right.
against white people.
Right. Well, let's do it. Let's. We're not trying to bash white people.
We're
here,
not.
Okay. Not trying to bash, but you know, growing up, there are a lot of stereotypes growing up that my parents had, that my other Asian friends have.
Yeah.
And I think talking about it is a good thing because what Mike and I at least like to do is after we talk about it, we want to talk about how that's formed, and also, you know, we want to be like, that's not how everyone is.
Right.
You know, and possibly give some examples from our own lives.
Yeah.
Because we both grew up. Well, I grew up around more Caucasians than you did.
No, you didn't.
Oh no, no, I didn't.
I'm from the
you
Midwest.
did. Dude, you did. Okay, right. You actually grew up with more.
Yo, when I left,
Caucasians.
the population of Asians in Missouri went down by like 40%.
That's right. You actually more. I mean, I thought I grew up around. I didn't grow up around Asians, but you literally. I totally forgot. You literally. Oh, because you know why? Because I think at some point you went back to China, but that was only for like 3 years. 2 years.
Yeah.
So, anyways, here we go.
Right. So, the first stereotype that a lot of Chinese people have against white people is that they're all rich,
Yeah,
right?
I would agree with that.
And some of that comes from, obviously, the dollar is worth much more than the yuan.
Right.
And the Chinese people, a lot of Chinese people, their annual salary is not that high, and it's all paid in yuan again.
Right. And I think that more so with our parents' generation, because we're the immigrant class, you know, we weren't born here and we grew up here, but, you know, like when we were growing up, yeah, it definitely seemed like that because all my white friends had way more money than I did and my parents. And, you know, we both kind of grew up poorer than a lot of our white friends,
Right.
you know?
Definitely a lot less people in China. They have like their own comforted spaces, like a big backyard or something like that a lot of people maybe take for granted here.
Right.
So when they look at movies and they're like, oh, look at that big backyard, look at that giant indoor pool or whatever.
I mean, the first show I ever watched was Full House. I mean, the house was huge.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is especially true though if you're, you know, in China and you're looking
outward
via movies or TV shows, and you're just like, oh, everybody's got so much money, they dress so nicely.
Yeah, there's a lot of Americans, white Americans, that are really in poverty.
A lot of people
in America. So, but you know, Chinese people don't really get to see that.
No.
Oh, okay, so I got one. So I'm under the impression, and this is not right, but it's kind of like, you'll see why this is, but I feel like most white guys have yellow fever. Like, it's not right, and I know it's not true, but look at our friends. Like, most of our Caucasian friends either date or are married to Asian girls. So I'm sorry, but you guys are not making it, our friends are not making it easier for me to not think that.
Well, I think this is, let's be honest here, this is a concept that a lot of Asians, I think in general, have about white people.
Yeah.
Is that they have yellow fever.
Right.
Right.
And I don't like that because we talk about the yellow fever thing a lot. One of the first videos we published, like I do not agree with people just identifying a race and being like, oh, I like them because of what the race represents.
It's like a mutual stereotypical thing.
Yeah.
Because on one side, all right, we think all white people have yellow fever. On the other side, okay, some people are attracted to Asians because they're stereotyping against those Asian women when we're men.
That's what we're against.
Right. There are people who are legit, like, I'm really interested in your culture.
Right.
And I really like the people in that culture. I'm really attracted to them. That's fine.
Right.
You know, anybody can be interested in a culture and whatever, and that's great. But there are some people who are like, yo, I saw one too many animes, and I think you like, you know, you guys are very passive, submissive,
blah, blah, blah.
That's dress up in a maid costume. Like, come on, that's whack.
But nonetheless, because you see the abundance of, you know, non-Asians, especially, you know, Caucasians with Asians, Chinese, we're talking about, of course people are going to think like that.
And it's usually lopsided, right? You don't see an abundance of white or other Western or any women with a lot of Chinese guys or Asian guys in general.
Correct.
Talked about that survey that actually studied this and said that Asian men are one of the lowest desired races, and Asian women is like the top. And so another stereotype that Chinese people have is that white people symbolizes success in business, and this is very much true because there are actually businesses in China that will hire white people, for functions where if you're running a dinner with your clients, you actually rent a white guy to go with you.
This is actually not uncommon. This is extremely common. Like people that I know, like I'll be like, what does your friend do? He's like, oh, he's one of those guys. Like he's literally talking about like
my friend. They make a lot of money.
I know. Because think about it, like they're literally just paying you. Your one job is to make the Chinese company appear more successful.
And that's because a lot of Chinese people have that perception that, oh, you have a white guy with you. That means you're successful. That means you're doing international business. That means you're important.
Okay, so I got another one growing up. I feel like most, my parents definitely, and also our friends' parents who are also Chinese, thought that white parents did not discipline their child well.
And I think that's Asian general perspective.
You think that's not just Chinese?
That's not just Chinese. Because remember, Russell Peters, even he joked about it. He's like, white people, you gotta beat your kids.
Right? Yeah, because he's basically like, you let him run around, do anything. And somewhat, this is somewhat kind of true from when I was growing up, like seeing how my parents dealt with me and my other Asian Chinese parents dealt with their kids, and how my white parents dealt with their kids. I mean, my parents wouldn't even let me do I really wanted to do Boy Scouts, and she was like, you can't do Boy Scouts. I'm like, why? Because she's like, the Boy Scouts is like, it's irresponsible, they roughhouse, they go out into nature, and like, basically saying like it's wild.
If you were not raised by immigrant parents, like you probably got punished you got sent to your room. We didn't have rooms.
Right, I have rooms. I shared a room with my parents.
You got punished by what? Like
take away your video games.
No video games. My parents sent me back to China.
You were deprived.
I mean, I got whooped.
But anyways, they saw. They would see like my Caucasian parents. Caucasian parents. It's not that they don't discipline their kids. It's just a different way of disciplining. They do discipline.
More reasonable. I feel
it's definitely more reasonable because they're not hitting you the moment you do something wrong. Chinese parents, I feel like because they kind of take it too far sometimes, where in their brain it's like the only way they know how to discipline you is to hit you or basically like be really extreme with you. And I don't think that's right either, but that they definitely see the notion like, little Bobby, is basically they let him do whatever he wants.
A lot of Chinese feel that white people are wasteful.
Oh, definitely.
Here's the problem with stereotypes in both cultures, right? In the West, there is a lot of Chinese here. What is there? There's 4 million Chinese in the U.S. or something like that.
Yeah, I think like 3.
But that's still a very small community compared to all the non-Chinese who are here.
Right.
So that in that sense, not every white person or Western person can actually understand Chinese people because most likely they're not around Chinese people that much.
Right.
This is extremely true in China, even more true in China.
Right.
There's not millions of white people in China to walk around the communities, interact with the Chinese, so they have a different perception of who they really are. So they feel like they get their information from TV shows, movies, and they're like, oh yeah, these guys just waste their food.
Right. But so what I think also more is what they see right? Like for example, I mean I'm guilty of that. Like I'll buy a drink and I'll take a few sips, and if I don't like it, I'll literally chuck it, and I won't even think twice. And my parents definitely, my friends that are Chinese, they criticize me for it. And I hear you, bro. Like I don't want to be wasteful, but part of my upbringing, my parents, my Asian parents told me, but like when I was with my white friends, their parents didn't really care that much. And it's not that like I feel like Chinese people have the image that white people are like sitting around just like they buy a bunch of stuff and they're like, don't want that. No, that's not what's going on.
That's not true unless you watch Problem Child. My grandparents used to tell me stories about how they had nothing to eat because during the Cultural Revolution there was a great famine. And they literally had to go into the fields and basically look for corn kernels that are left behind the harvest.
Kernels. Yeah. But I want to defend, Caucasians in that, like if you take a look at the older generation who lived through the Great Depression, they'll certainly, how many times have I seen my friends' grandparents, be like, don't waste that, right? So it's there. It's just a little different, right? Kind of piggyback on the not disciplining their kids. A lot of Chinese people think that white people are lazy
or lack work ethic.
Or lack work ethic, right? And it's not a lazy thing so much the work ethic thing. Like I just read this thing today where they're saying like even the youngest group, the millennials now, they have this thing where they feel like they need to get rewarded based on less of what they do, and it's kind of like the participation syndrome.
It starts from a young age because in China, right, you go to school for basically 6.5 days a week. You get a ton of homework. You're going to school till like 7, 8 o'clock, sometimes 10 o'clock at night. No joke, 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
And then you look at what's happening, and then they look at what's happening in the Western schools where kids get off at 2:30.
2:30. You go to school from like 8 to 2.
Yeah, right? Your classes are like you get some coloring.
I don't know, like no. You're right. You're right.
Like, okay,
color class.
In Chinese classes, you don't get easy classes. Right. It's all difficult. I mean, it's hard.
Right.
So, and then the mentality in China is, you got to work hard because there's 1.6 billion people. So you got to compete. Right. Otherwise, you're not going to get a job. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. You're going to starve.
Right.
There's no system set up in China where like, okay, we're going to help you.
No, there isn't.
There's really none. No. But then they look at, okay, well, hey, these guys work only 5 days a week.
Right.
Oh, they get off work at 5? So they developed this stereotype about white people. That's where it comes from. But I think where this stereotype is really falling short is that, nowadays, I think especially people are working longer hours and not getting paid as much because there's a report done where like people in the U.S., they work longer hours. They don't take vacation days.
Right.
Because they're afraid they're going to lose their jobs when they come back because the market is getting more and more competitive.
That's right. In fact, actually, the U.S. is one of the worst working environments in the world, right? You always hear about that. So, but when you put that up against, right, like you're saying, like the Chinese view of like, I'm going to work 7 days a week or whatever, it still kind of falls short a little bit. But that's where I think it comes from.
Another stereotype that Chinese have is they think all white people are Americans.
Right. Now, that sounds kind of weird, but think about it, right? If you're white, you could be Spanish, you could be European, German, and Americans dominate a lot of the parts of the world. Hollywood, which is where a lot of Chinese people get their ideas from in the first place. So I could see that that's definitely, they would be like, oh.
Yeah, that's definitely influenced by mainstream society.
Right.
Movies, TV shows, because a lot of times, all right, European TV shows, movies may not get spread to China as much, right? Hollywood movies, like you said, American TV shows, like what do they watch a lot in China? Friends.
Exactly. Well, also, what do they eat a lot? American, like Starbucks, Burger King, whatever. And the last one is, I see this a lot too when I was growing up. Chinese people think that white people do not take care of their family once they get older. So they're under the assumption that they just will send their parents to a retirement home, and they don't want to see them a lot. Which that's not true, but that does happen in American society.
Sure, it does.
But again, that's from the culture. You're not the grandparents don't expect you to take care of them, because when you turned 18. They kicked you out.
That's where they think you're an adult, you're independent.
So therefore, when you're getting older, and they live their separate lives, so it's not uncommon for them.
In the Chinese society, you parents will pay for everything, including college, typically, and then even after college comes live at home, and then when you have a kid, we're gonna move near you, or move in with you, take care of your kid, and we're old, you take care of us. That's the way it is.
So when they see that other cultures don't do that, they're just like, oh, that's not good. So I mean, I really like this discussion because basically, we want to admit that there are stereotypes, and you can't deny that what we said. Come on, like, and we kind of eased up, but like, our parents have said some worse things to us, and our friends that are Asian, and we just want to be like, hey, they're out there, but recognize that it's a result of cultures, and it's not all like that, but also. Honestly, for me, it doesn't matter what cultures do as long as you recognize that something's good or not. To me, it's more important you do it that way.
And I think it's going to get better. What are stereotypes? Stereotypes are concepts, notions that we have in our heads because we don't really understand a culture as well as we should. And with the internet, with social media, whatever, and with more open tourism, there's going to be a lot of interaction between these two cultures. China has always been really closed off. And Chinese people it's really tough for them to come to the U.S. sometimes unless you have a lot of money or whatever. So these are a couple cultures that haven't really mingled as much. So as time goes, I feel like this is going to get a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, both ways. So
thank you so much for watching this.
Later.
See ya.